So I wanted to do this design without aquarium sealant, so we'll just throw that away. So this is the start, and I was trying to come up with an egg tumbler, and it occurred to me one night when I was looking at my bio sponge filter that how does water get drawn through the sponge? So first of all, I got a sponge filter. I bought this for about £2, I think. £2, £2.50 or something like that. So I wasn't going to go wrong there. So I started to take it apart and took out all the little bits, and this is what I was left with. So you actually want to get rid of the sponge and the internal bits and the base, so you're just left with these two. Now obviously this is the top of the tube and the bottom. Now the bubbles go up through this tube, which creates a strong pull of water, and this is the bottom, which, as you can see, it goes on just like that, and the sponge is in the center. And they also, I found out that they fit together quite nicely, both this way and this way. So what else you're going to need is a container. Now this is actually acrylic, it's a glass or a cup I think I got out of a dessert, and I started looking for tops that would fit in, that they had a rim so they'd fit snugly in, and as you can see this doesn't, so I couldn't use that. But then I came across this tube. Now I actually found this tube just amongst my stuff, and it's actually a nature tube from some sort of toy or something. So I thought, this is brilliant, it's clear, which means I can see the eggs, and it's got this lid that pops in and off securely. Now you're also going to need some sort of mesh. I bought this green mesh a while ago when I was trying to make moss beds, and it's green, but it doesn't really matter the colour. But this just allows a sort of hammock, a sort of place for the eggs to sit, and you can see that it fits in between the lid and the acrylic tube, like so. I'll try and give you guys a close-up here. So yeah, you can see it's in the middle. It's sort of, we're going to call this area the bed of the tumbler. This is obviously the bed for the eggs. It's where they sit in this little chamber, and the netting sort of just gives them a bit of cushioning, doesn't damage them, and allows air to pass through. So the next bit you're going to want to do is you want to get suction cups, preferably something that can attach to the tumbler. Now these are just basic suction cups that go on like this, and I'm just going to show you what you need to do with this now. So you've got your suction cups, and what I actually did is I went and bought some tubing. Now this tubing is called Hep2 piping. It was cheap and did what I needed it to do. And you're also going to need a knife. I just got a knife that had a nice edge to it, very sharp, and you want to cut it about half a foot, 6 inches. This just allows enough room, and I wanted to make sure that if I cut it too big I could shorten it, or if I cut it too small, obviously I couldn't make it larger. So I just went ahead and I chopped it at 6 inches. Obviously this is plastic, so it's very easy to cut, and it didn't take long to get through it. And you want to make the cut as sort of level as possible. So there you go, I've got your tubing, and what you want to do is you just want to make sure that the lid still fits on, which it does here, so we're all good to go. So I'm just gonna take this off, and I'm actually gonna sand around the edge so it doesn't break the netting, as it's kind of sharp right now. So I went ahead and I just got some sandpaper, and what I did with this is I just sanded the edges. I'm just gonna speed this up so you don't have to watch me do this, but basically you just sand it all. So yeah, you just want to check it's smooth and check you've not missed any bits, which I have here, so I'm just gonna finish that and we'll move on to the next step. So what I did is I just cleaned the tubing, made sure that all the sanded parts were out of it, as that made quite a mess. And the next step is to obviously make a hole in the tubing for the top part. So I've found the best way to do this is to find a coin that was the same size as the diameter of this bit that's going to clip on. So I did that. I found 1p piece was the same size, and what I did is I just stuck it on the top here, and obviously you want to make sure it's in the center, and I went ahead and I just drew a line around it. Now you want to get a marker so the pen obviously doesn't run off. I forgot this step, so mine actually kept coming off, which was very irritating, as I had to keep drawing it back on. But I finished that, and as you can see I'm left with an outline in which I have to cut out. So I went ahead and I just cut it out. I used a tool, but I think you could probably use a knife or something. Just be careful you don't split the plastic. And as you can see, it's a very clean cut. You want it to be clean, as you want this to fit snugly in the top, like so. And now I'm just going to go on to the next stage, so I'll see you in a minute. And obviously I washed it out again just to make sure I got rid of all the sand dust. As you can see, it's really tightly in there, and it's a firm fit, so no need for silicone. So I just want to give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. So basically you want to get the mesh and place it on top of the lid, and then place the tubing over the top of that. So as you can see, it still fits quite nicely, and the mesh is in between the tubing and the lid. So now I'm just going to move on to the next step, which is obviously drilling the holes into the lid. Now I just want to tell you guys to drill the holes evenly, just so you get a nice pull of water, a nice current, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that now. I just want to give you a quick tip here. What I did is I got some polystyrene and I just sort of screwed the lid into that, just so I didn't drill into the floor of my house, and yeah, this worked pretty well. So as you can see, I've drilled some holes around the outside and one in the middle, and I thought at this stage I want a bit more current, I want a bit more pull, so I went ahead and just drilled some more. So obviously this is it finished. It's not the nicest of things, but it does its job. So again, you just want to get the mesh and then put the tube over the top of that. Obviously this takes a wee while to do. It's kind of awkward to do it while you get a camera view, so that's why it's taking so long, but here we go. And yeah, as you can see, the water is going to come up through those holes, and the eggs are going to be sitting on that bed of mesh, as I said, and the water is going to flow over the top of them and keep oxygen coming to them. So that's how that works, so you don't get any unhealthy eggs. If you stop the flow of oxygen, obviously they'll die and fungus will grow on them. And so what I did here is I just trimmed the mesh just so it looks a bit cleaner. And obviously if there's any eggs in the tumbler that show signs of fungus, either they're white or they have some sort of white moss growing on them, you want to move them immediately before they obviously kill off the rest of the eggs. But I found that as long as you keep them oxygenated and they're constantly moving but not at a pace where it's too much for them, you want to keep it sort of a low current just so they vibrate on the bed. So next I just went ahead and I chopped the piping, the Hep 2 piping. And yeah, obviously this is a bit tougher than the tubing, as obviously it's thicker. The only use for this is obviously so the suction cups can attach to it easily. Obviously I didn't want to drill holes for the suction cups into the side of the tumbler because I thought maybe that'll lose some current, so I did the next best thing and I got some Hep 2 piping and just attached the suction cups to that with a sort of brace thing that came with a heater, and this seemed to do the job. Did a perfect job, in fact. Sorry it's taken a while to chop through this, but once I'd done this it just seemed to break right off and snap, so just give me a minute. Okay, there we go, and that's what we want to use. So obviously it just clips on like that, and you want a bit extending at the bottom and at the top just to allow the rubber bands to. Now we're almost finished, so what you're going to want to do is obviously attach the suction cups, so you're going to need a couple of rubber bands. I just put that over the top, and obviously one at the bottom, like so. And then got the Hep 2 piping and I just sat that on there and then pulled the rubber bands over the top of it. So that's it done, really. There's not a lot to it. Obviously test it out, but there you go. There's one more thing you're gonna need, which is obviously airline tubing, which I'm going to show you now. I want to take this tube off and put the airline tubing through there, and then you actually attach it to this cap here, and obviously put the tubing back on, and there you have it, a pretty pro looking egg tumbler. All you got to do is attach this bit to a aeration device. Now I'm just going to show you how you put it in the aquarium. Hope this helps you guys. Thank you for watching. Comment, rate, and subscribe.